City News is brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.
Kia ora Rotorua, ahead in tonight's bulletin. Police launch a multi-agency summer road safety campaign. Wingspan and Rotorua Museum join forces for the first ever urban release of the New Zealand falcon. And golfers raise over $27,000 to help with restoration work on St Faith's Church. Police are putting the brakes on speeding and drunk and dangerous drivers this summer with new tools to reduce death and trauma on our roads. As part of a multi-agency summer road safety campaign, two new firsts have been announced: a 2-month reduced speed threshold of 4 kilometres per hour and the national trial of 28 highly visible coloured police patrol vehicles to be rolled out across the country over the next year. Rotorua Road Police Officer Sergeant Pauline Jones says drivers stopped for speeding will also be automatically breath tested.
The faster you go, the bigger the mess, more crashes, harder to control, and it does a lot more damage. The faster you go, less likely that someone's going to survive a crash. And as you're aware with the statistics, last year during December and January, there were 359 people that were seriously injured through crashes.
3 endangered New Zealand falcon chicks have hatched at Wingspan, the National Bird of Prey Centre in Rotorua. The chicks will be transferred to a nesting box on the roof of the museum on the 16th as part of the first ever urban release, not just of the New Zealand falcon, but of any endangered species in New Zealand. In the days and weeks following, museum visitors and visitors to the wider government gardens will have the rare opportunity to see the young falcons up close as they learn to fend for themselves. Rotorua Museum Director Stuart Brown says it's a fantastic opportunity for our community to get actively involved in a critical conservation project. Volunteers will be trained by both Wingspan and the Department of Conservation staff on how to monitor the birds and how to report sightings and activities of the young falcons. And we'll bring you more on this fascinating project in the coming weeks. St Chad's Charitable Trust is inviting locals to their annual Carols and Candlelight event tomorrow night. Coordinator Kim Pears says Carols by Candlelight is a chance for people to come and see what's going on at St Chad's and to catch up with new programs and initiatives. Doors open at 6 p.m, so visitors can have a look around, with the carol service starting at 7:30 p.m. In sport tonight, around 70 Rotorua golfers teed off last weekend to raise funds to help with the restoration work on St Faith's Church. More than $27,000 was raised at the Lakeview Golf Club event. St Faith's Church celebrates its 100th birthday next year and will be consecrated as a multi-cathedral. And we have more on the St Faith's restoration project coming up later tonight. For your weather update now, tonight there'll be periods of rain strengthening northeasterlies and an overnight low of 15. Tomorrow Thursday, rain, heavy falls developing, strong northeasterlies, a high of 19 and a low of 16. And the outlook for Friday, rain with some heavy falls, easing later with northerlies, a high of 23 and a low of 14. And the marine weather forecast, northeast rising to 20 knots in the afternoon, changing northwest to 10 knots at night, with waves rising to half a metre for a time in the afternoon. There'll be poor visibility in the rain with some heavy and thundery falls, which should be easing in the evening. Remember, for program listings and other info, or to catch up on City News, you can visit our website tvrotorua.co.nz. Still to come tonight, Sergeant Pauline Jones has news about the police summer road safety campaign. We talk with Reverend Tom Poata about the restoration project for St Faith's Church. And we talk with long-serving District Councillor Charles Sturt about his re-election and goals for his new term.
Well, we're down here at the City Council today, and just recently the new Mayor Steve Chadwick and the councillors put out the new Rotorua vision for 2030. But right now we're going to head inside and we're going to be talking with Charles Stewart and find out the 7 major key points in this new plan. Thanks for joining us today, Charles. Now, since the new election for the council and obviously with the mayor, you guys have been pretty full on with this new 2030 vision. So just run through it, if you wouldn't mind, the 7 major factors that you guys have discussed and would like to see implemented in the city.
There's 7 major factors for the 2030 vision, but we've also got a work program for the 3 years, 2013 to 2016. But running through the 7 vision statements for 2030 include a resilient community, outstanding places to play, loved homes, vibrant city heart, business enterprise, employment opportunities, and unspoilt environment. Those are the 7 key goals, but underneath them there's a lot of information, a lot of embellishment of those things. But the whole point of this 2030 vision is to bring the community together, to bring all parties together, so we're all working for a common goal, which is the growth and development of Rotorua.
Now that's pretty bold statements there, Charles.
Ambitious.
It is
Yes,
ambitious,
it
yeah.
is.
How realistic do you think it is?
I think it is realistic. I think there's a new vision and vibrancy out there in the community. You saw with Clean Up Rotorua on the weekend how a complete group of the community came together for a common purpose, and that's what we want to do right throughout the community in all the subsets. And that's why under Mayor Chadwick, since we were elected, she's interviewed all of us, looked at our strengths and weaknesses, looked at the groups that she wants us to be involved in. And that'll come out tomorrow at the full council meeting as to what those focus groups are going to be. Mine's going to be sport and recreation, because that's been a passion of mine since I've lived here all my life. Sport and recreation is the one I want to head and be involved in. So that's what we've been doing, working really hard to try and get these things together.
It's good that you mentioned, like you said in the weekend, the Scrub Rotorua Day, but also that day we had the rafting, also
Yes.
the Globerfest. Now,
Yes.
obviously huge events here in our city, but there's still enough people in town to be involved in the Scrub Rotorua Day.
Yes,
Rotorua
there
Day.
was. And I think that's what Rotorua's got to aim for, particularly with events. We need events here every weekend. And that's part of the vibrancy. That's part of, you live out at Longatar and you see thousands and thousands of cars every weekend coming into Rotorua with mountain bikes on the back of them. And that's part of, we've got to have these events happening all the time.
And they bring money, don't they, to spend in the city?
Absolutely, and they fill our motels, and they put the vibrancy back into the CBD. One of the huge success stories, which isn't lauded, which isn't trumpeted, has been Volcanic Wines and what they brought to Rotorua.
And it's a different market, isn't it?
Totally different market. Something in Rotorua, a winery in Rotorua, unbelievable. The same happened when Tamaki Tour started up. The Tamaki brothers were told they're crazy, they're wasting their time. So that's what we've got to do. Is bring the innovators and the entrepreneurs, but they've got to come here for the right reasons, work, and to stay, and
Lifestyle.
be here for the long haul. And we need probably another 2 major attractions here in Rotorua. I mean, what I want to do in the new role I'm going to get on Thursday is be the catalyst to say to private enterprise, we've got an aquatic centre down there. Yes, they can do laps. Yes, the swimming club can swim backwards and forwards. But why don't we partner with private enterprise and say put a wave-making machine in there?
Here's an idea for you. Why not build Australia's biggest water slide theme park?
Yeah, but
We've got the
who's
thermals.
going to do it? It's got to be private enterprise, okay? It can't be the council, because we've got enough debt as it is, servicing the core businesses like sewage, water and all those sorts of things. What we need to do is open for expressions of interest from the private sector and say to the private sector, you can have that side of the aquatic centre and charge a rate for that. Where the swimming clubs and the people who still want to do laps, that will be run as a social service on behalf of the people of Rotorua from the council, same with the library. But here, private enterprise, here's an opportunity for it.
Now,
See what happens.
I'm glad you mentioned the debt, Charles, because we've talked to Rob Kent. Now he's a businessman. He wants to get his things underway here in council. What's the council going to do to try and reduce that debt? Because it's huge. $180 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, we've got a debt reduction plan. I've been part of that debt. I've been on council for 23 years and I've been part of that debt. But you've got to put the debt into perspective. A lot of the debt is debt as a result of people saying to the council, we want the lakes cleaned up. So the debt is Awaho, Hamarana Sewerage Scheme, Maurea Okawa Bay Sewerage Scheme, Loki Karaka Sewerage Scheme, the Rotomar Roto Ehu ones in the pipeline. There's probably $80 million worth of debt just there. Yes, the big debt burden on Rotorua is the airport, so we need to turn that around too. And I have confidence in Steve and Deputy Mayor Dave. Ray Cook is chairman of the airport company. I'm going to their AGM shortly. As chairman of the airport company, to keep those negotiations going so we can get another air. As soon as we get another airline in there, it's all go. So the promises of the past have to come to fruition, and we'll see how we go.
Now, before we run out of time, Charles, there's in the next week or so, councillors are going to be going out into the community to engage,
Yes.
see what they want. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, we've been given a list of venues that we have to go to, like the night. We don't have to go. If we're available to go to the night market, Currell Park, the kids' triathlons, anything where the community is, and just to talk to people if they want to talk to us. I don't know whether there'll be a stand, I haven't got that detail yet, but engaging with the community at their level, that's important, rather than holding it in a community hall and hoping that
Someone turns up.
the usual moaners turn up, Get down at grassroots and talk to the average punter out there.
All right, it sounds like you guys have got a good plan in place, and we wish you all the best luck. Thank you, Charles.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, if you're a bit of a speed demon now, you better keep an eye on this story, because over the Christmas period, the police are going to be cracking down on the speed threshold. And with me today is Sergeant Pauline Jones, who's going to share a little bit more about this. Thanks for joining us today, Pauline.
Welcome.
Now, obviously, speed is a big issue on the roads, and drinking and driving and things like that. So why is the police over the Christmas period going to bring down the speed threshold from 7 down to 4 k's?
A lot of it's just common sense. The faster you go, the bigger the mess, more crashes, harder to control, and it does a lot more damage. The faster you go, less likely that someone's going to survive a crash. And as you're aware with the statistics, last year during December and January, there were 359 people that were seriously injured through crashes.
And that's over the whole of New Zealand?
Whole of New Zealand, 59 of those died.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's huge. And we find anyhow, when we lower that speed tolerance level down, as we do for holidays and special occasions, we find that everyone seems to behave themselves, go slower, less crashes, less deaths. Yeah, so win-win.
So if that is the scenario, the end scenario, that there's less crashes and less people speeding, why don't we do this permanently?
Well, I think that could be a possibility, and this is a lead up. So historically, I think the lowering of that level started in 2010, and it's only been for those holiday periods. You'll find that now they've increased it to 62 days, which normally, it's only, a week, 4 days, 3 days, 62 days. So I think this might be a measure for us to see, what comes of that.
Now, I've got some statistics here, Pauline. Of the 100 impaired drivers that kill themselves on the road from drink driving or drugs or whatever, another 54 passengers die, and also 27 sober drivers who had nothing to do with it but were involved in the crash, they die as well. So out of every 100 drink drivers that die, 81 die on the road. So that statistic's pretty high. So again, will this sort of enforcement of the speed coming down, will that prevent things like that?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, the lowering of the speed level, the tolerance, has a huge impact on everything. And those stats you've just quoted, I wasn't aware that they were that high, and that 81 innocent people was a result of 100 drunk drivers or drugged drivers being involved in it. That's just atrocious. That's amazing.
Yeah. Now, obviously, tracking someone who's been drinking is an easy thing to do, but chasing those ones that have been taking drugs, it's a bit harder to track as well. So what sort of things do the police look for when they're obviously looking for someone who's been either drinking or doing drugs?
Okay, again, it's common sense stuff. So it would be smell, it could be an admission, it could be their moods, it could be slurred speech. So it's a combination of several things.
Now, recently on national media, we've seen the new rollout of the police cars, the bright red and the bright orange cars.
Yep.
Are we getting any here in the Bay of Plenty?
We hope so. At this stage, we're not sure. There's only been 5 allocated to the different districts at this stage. So there are 28 that are coming. There's 12 districts and they'll be spread across those 12 districts, and only 5 have been allocated. And of course none of them are the Bay of Plenty yet, but so that leaves 23, and if a vehicle needs replacing in each district, they'll look at that.
So it's just slowly rolling out.
Slowly rolling out, yep.
Now, why the red and the orange? Are they because they're highly visible? Is that the reason why they chose those colours?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's a new thing for us. They've been trialled in Australia and they seem to work. We did trial them in the Waikato. Again, they had an impact. You know, something new. Yeah, then they're noticed by the public. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, also one of the things that I know that a lot of viewers see around here in Rotorua is that a lot of people run red lights here. Now, I know that they've tried red light cameras up in the north, up in Auckland. Is there the opportunity they're going to come down here? Because people that run red lights and kill people, you know, that's not a good thing.
We would love to see them here. At this stage, we don't have any plans to do that. So, of course, the local officers are just doing, I mean, we're aware of this problem, and we do monitor it and we do target, you know, certain intersections, as you're aware, but we don't have any plans at this stage to bring that down.
There's going to be a lot of naysayers out there that when you guys bring in the red light cameras and things like that, they're going to assume it's going to be for revenue gathering, but it's more about protecting people and stopping these sorts of deaths.
Absolutely. The issuing of tickets, it's not about revenue gathering or anything like that. It is about saving lives, protecting the public. It's all of those things.
And looking forward to the Christmas break there yourself there, Pauline?
Absolutely. For me though, the message is keep your speed level down, and hopefully with the new change of that tolerance level, that will
When does
help.
it kick in, Pauline?
The 1st of December. So it's from the 1st of December through to the 31st of January.
Now it's going to be a zero tolerance too, isn't it?
Absolutely, zero. So you can expect that if you're speeding over the 4K tolerance, you will be issued with a ticket, and you'll also be breath tested.
Wow. No drinking, driving, and no speeding. Awesome, Pauline. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're down here at St Faith's Church in Ohinemutu, and next year is the 2014 centenary. And at the moment, it's looking a bit tired and needs some bit of a makeover and redecoration. And with me today is Reverend Tom Parata. Thanks for joining us today, Reverend.
Sure, Al.
Now, people used to call you Father Tom, didn't they?
They still do.
They still do. Where did that come from?
It's a term of endearment. It started with a bunch of children in the village here who didn't quite grasp the concept of the difference between a father and a reverend. And now they still scream, "Hello, Father Tom." It's a blessing in some ways.
So it's a bit of a nickname.
I'm definitely not a father.
Yeah, so what's the difference between like a church father and a reverend?
Reverend tends to be the Protestant tradition. Father tends to be either High Church, or Roman Catholic.
Cool.
And for as much as we try, we can't sort of get away from those titles.
Now, like I said in the intro, next year is the centenary for St Faith's, which is 100 years,
Yep.
and it needs some makeover.
It does.
Bit of paint.
It needs some work. It's not the church's centenary. It's the building's centenary. The previous churches that have stood here on this site go back to the late 1800s, mid to late 1800s. So, but this was the descendant of those earlier churches. One of which I think blew down in about 1923 in a storm or sometime around then.
Wow, big storm.
Yeah. Well, it was an old thing. The central part of the church was the original part that was rededicated in 1914. It wasn't built in 1914, but it was certainly rededicated. So we decided to celebrate the centennial of the rededication rather than tack it right down to the very date that it was built, which nobody seems to recall anyway.
So what sort of things are you going to be doing for the restoration? Because there's obviously, when we look up there, you can see there needs a bit of paint and a few nails here and there. What's the sort of things you're going to be doing?
Exactly that. The inevitable things. A lot of it is visual, but there's also stuff that we need to do that is both structural and of a sort of not necessarily modernising, but updating and protecting and renovating. So a lot of the carved work around here needs some careful attention, professional attention, which we can't afford to give to it because we don't know what is detrimental to
Right, with chemicals and things.
to keeping these things in a condition that has any sustainability. So it's professional care is what we're paying for, and professional skills that we don't have in the congregation. That's where the cost factor enters into it. That, of course, and because it has such a high ceiling, and with current OSH regulations and all the rest of that, the days of swinging around on a rope up there, getting young boys up there to clean the cobwebs away, they're long gone. We can't do that anymore. The cost of paying for the skill alone is one of the greatest imposts.
So have you got a sort of a time frame when you want all this finished?
Yes,
Obviously yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. That would get it well and truly out of our hair. But thanks to the generosity of so many people, when we raised the issue of how are we going to celebrate the centenary of the building, the church building, the central building, not the East and West Chapel. We're sitting in the East Chapel now. But not those additions that were made in the 60s, but celebrating 100 years of the central building, the original building. We decided to make it 2014. It's not coincidental that it's also the second, or the bicentennial, of the arrival of the gospel, as we understand it, in New Zealand at Oihi in the Bay of Islands. And that was under Reverend Samuel Marsden, of course, and with the best wishes of people like Rotorua and Te Pahi, who are all a part of the tradition, the whakapapa of the church here in New Zealand.
It's probably fairly important to recognise this as such a historical building in our city, because, you know, as we mentioned off camera, there's so many different families that have been involved and been married here and things like that. So obviously it needs to be celebrated.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the church screams the biculturalism and nowadays the multiculturalism of the society in which this church has survived for 150 odd years. It has always been a difficult time and a difficult place. Because, not least of all, because of the tradition that's associated with Ngāti Whakaua and with Te Arawa, whose land this is. Whether we agree with that entirely in the 21st century or not doesn't really matter, but it is a part of the story, and the telling of the story is always impoverished or, you know, denied its full strength if you miss any part of it.
Of course, yeah.
The original part of the coming of Christianity into this district is a very complex and yet wonderful story of human endeavour, of the human desire to get on with each other, to change things.
And to build.
And that's something that we've always been doing here. And this building screams, you know, Māori-ness in conjunction with a respect for the Christian traditions as they've emerged. Behind me on the back window, you might see a sort of medieval representation of the four saints, of Matthew, Mark, Luke and Paul.
Now, if there's somebody at home, Tom, that wants to donate or even contribute their time or resources to the restoration, where can they make the donations?
The best thing to do is to bring them into the church. Come and have a look, and then, in gratitude, make a deposit in the back. There's a huge safe out the back there. It's been there for decades. If anybody could move it, good luck to them. But if you write your name and your address and your contact details on there if you need to, and we'll issue receipts and all the rest of that
All right,
stuff.
good stuff. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
That was reporter Alan Solomon talking to Reverend Tom Puata about the restoration at St Faith's. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any news or information that you'd like to share with us, give the station a call on 07 3488 984, or you can email news@tv.rotorua.co.nz. Thanks for watching tonight. From all the team here at City News, for Maria.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
City News was brought to you by East Brewster Lawyers Rotorua, celebrating 100 years of legal excellence and innovation.